Hey guys, Jay, welcome back to the channel. Guys, my camera's in the wrong. What the heck? Why does this always happen? This is the problem with live streaming. This tends to happen a lot. Guys, welcome to this very special edition of the Mega J Retro Show. I, of course, am Jay. I want to thank each and every one of you, of course, for being here tonight. Today, this is an absolute pleasure. I am super stoked with what's going on with everything toys right now. It's crazy. The only thing I'm kind of not jazzed about, of course, is the prices, but then, of course, all of us are kind of not jazzed about that. But today, we're not going to be talking about prices. Well, we are going to be talking about prices. We're talking about everything today, but it has to do with, of course, the Masters of the Universe. Guys, if you've been living under a rock and you're a toy collector for the last 2 weeks, you probably wouldn't have known that this is the 40th anniversary of the Masters of the Universe. Oh my God, I am so old. Yes, I was collecting Masters of the Universe way back when I was a kid. And honestly, I'm super stoked about all the announcements that have been coming out of Mattel lately. And I really wanted to bring in someone who has a lot more knowledge than I do in terms of the toy industry, how things work. Because there's been a lot of questions about what's been happening with Masters of the Universe, with toys in general. Specifically with Mattel, though, because there have been a lot of questions and a lot of people have been wondering, what exactly is going on. And they say that silence is deafening. And unfortunately, Mattel, for the most part, has been very, very quiet. But they hit us with a huge bombshell announcement 2 weeks ago. And honestly, I wanted to help decipher this with a good friend who honestly is much more qualified to help me, weed through all these crazy things much better than I could. So guys, without further ado, I want to welcome my very special guest, Scott Neitlich, please, everybody. Let's welcome him to the stream. What's going on, Mike? You're muted. You're muted. Could you check your?
Hi.
There. Hey, Scott. Good to see you.
I love being part of a very special episode. I've always wanted to be part of a very special episode of something.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. So, how you been? How you been, Scott?
Busy. Yeah. Wow. It's just nonstop. But it's good. Just like you, toy collection is growing, but choices are definitely more scrutinized. We're all seeing. It's funny. The video I think on my channel yesterday or the day before was all about the fact that we've had like a double price rise in 6-inch figures in the last year. Sorry, you.
No, I said I was just clearing my throat.
yeah. Sorry, for some reason I thought the audio cut out for a second. So it's crazy, but otherwise I'm great. Oh my God, MOTU's 40. Like what the hell?
Insane, freaking insane. You talk about price hikes. I've done 2 videos on price hikes here in Canada. We've had four price hikes in the last 3 years. It's nuts for us up here. But of course, our buying power for Toys R Us here is nowhere near what it used to be back when Toys R Us conglomerate was, a major, global power. Now that it's only situated in several different regions, it really has reduced the buying power for many of the their subsidiary branches, which pretty much branched off, for themselves for the most part. But having said that, this doesn't deter from what Mattel is doing. Mattel is doing some crazy, crazy things, and I really wanted to get your take on this because honestly, it was a shocker. The reality is though that Mattel has been quiet about what's going on, and I'm wondering if they just chose that to really throw us against the wall and just basically say, here we are, 40 years, celebrate it. And I wanted to get your take on it. What's your overall view on that? For this crazy time that we have right now.
Just so I know what I'm answering. Are you asking? I want to make sure I'm aware of you're talking about like all the reveals over the last few weeks and the 40th anniversary He-Man, or is there something else that I'm missing out on?
The whole thing, because literally for the longest time, I think a lot of people's questions were: we're seeing peg warmers, we're seeing we're seeing reissues, we're seeing repaints, and that's never a good sign, right? That's a sign of a brand which is kind of like going into a lull period, right? That they're just trying to phase everything out. We've seen clearances, we've seen so many different things, but then out of nowhere, Mattel just bam hits us, and it's the 40th anniversary. Everyone was talking, no one was talking about the 40th anniversary up until two weeks ago, and now Mattel basically floors us, and And I'm wondering, what would be the strategy behind that? Like, why would they stay so quiet for so long? And is there trouble in paradise, or was this do you believe that this was a strategy the whole time?
Maybe I think we're going to wind up somewhere in the middle there. So let's take a step back, and so first off, anything happening in the toy aisle was planned 2 to 3 years ago, minimum, just based on production time. So this, for example, this 40th anniversary He-Man, that means that they started planning him in at least 2020, if not earlier. So it's not like they just pulled that like out of nowhere. Here's what I think is going on. So yes, everything you just said, about the fact that there's so many repaints and, we're seeing peg warmers and clearance. That's all. That's absolutely, and those are. I mean, I've made videos on the Spector Creative channel on YouTube, shameless plug, about that, like saying like, yeah, this is the stuff that I've noticed, and as a professional, someone who's been in that seat, I was the guy in the chair, that was usually a sign, that a line was wavering. So here's what I think. It's funny. I just had this conversation actually with someone yesterday or the day before, assuming that either there's been a change in the license and Mattel is getting it back in 2023, which I don't think so, because I was part of the group trying to reacquire it, and Universal flat out told us that they don't sell IP, period. That's like Universal's policy. So I'm going under the assumption that Universal gets full ownership of the brand in 2023. It doesn't mean Mattel's not going to be able to make toys. I mean, someone has to be licensed to make the toys. Again, things could have changed. Maybe Universal changed their mind. Maybe who knows what happened. Maybe Mattel made a big enough offer. But whatever it is, obviously, so why was it quite quiet and then suddenly all these reveals? So I think two things. One, we just had New York Toy Fair virtually. I mean, not virtually, we had it. It was virtual. And Mattel won a Toady Award for the Masterverse line, which is going to, even if a line is, treading water, that's going to cause retailers to order more because it's now getting all that publicity and that free PR. Every image of it online, whether it's on Mattel or Amazon or Target.com or whatever, can now have a Toady of the Year stamp on it, and that does go a long way. It's major. Basically, if you get a Toady, you're like guaranteed to get X amount more in sales. It happens. It's like clockwork. And there's a lot of retailers that may have been shy on ordering product, but once it wins a Toady, they will. So like that becomes sort of like it's like, oh, you mean you're a Toy of the Year? Oh, you have a blockbuster movie? Of course I'm involved. The other thing is Mattel may have been waiting to see what happened with the 2022 resets that happened in February to see whether or not Walmart and Target, the largest customers, are going to continue the line. And they're clearly continuing it at this point. And I think the Toady may have been what pushed them over the edge to keep it going, because we did see all the signs, the clearance, the repaints, that kind of thing. And then, so then the other thing is that it's clear Mattel's playing a long game here, because they started off with Origins and have slowly built up by adding in Masterverse. And do we have a name for the CGI show? Are we just calling it like He-Man and the CGI Netflix show or something? I don't know if we have like an official name for that.
I think everyone's just calling it He-Man and the Master Universe, and it's just the Netflix He-Man right now. I think everyone. It's kind of like the way 2000X He-Man. No one calls it. Well, a lot of people that have adopted 2000X, right, or 200X, right, and nobody really calls it He-Man and the Master Universe because it's so confusing. They haven't really made this a definitive answer on it. But yeah, I think Netflix He-Man right now is the best because it's the only one right now that's broadcasting right now.
That makes sense. Because again, I didn't want to confuse with Revelation. All right, well, let's call it the Netflix CGI show. So yes, and they had that one. So they had 3, and then the minis. So what they've been doing is they've been piecing together a planogram, and I walked it the other day, and I was like, okay, let's say it's 4 feet. I mean, just literally walk with your feet because each step is about a foot. And I was like, wow, they were definitely playing the long game here. And so either one, there's three future scenarios. One, Universal sold them back the rights. Two, Universal is going to start licensing them the rights in 2023. Or three, they're just trying to max out how much money they can make before they lose the brand at the end of the year. Does that make sense?
That makes the most sense. I think I think the last two scenarios seem to be the most realistic. Because for me anyway. But yeah, please continue.
No. It's a conversation. I mean,
exactly. So all that stuff aside, right? Because over the past 3 or 4 years now, we've been treated to some great releases from Master Universe, right? The Origins, the Revelations, right? There has been some turmoil in terms of like people's view of Revelations, but I think that really had to do with internet misinformation. I watched the whole series, and even though there were parts of it I didn't like, Revelations was actually interesting at the very least. You know what I mean? And most people didn't even watch it. That's a tragedy for me. But what Revelations did for toys was amazing. They actually created a whole brand new Masterverse line, and now we're seeing the fruits of those of that initiative from Mattel. But for what you said with Universal, if they are actually going to license, like let's say that they did license there are now an agreement to license the property off of Universal. A lot of us speculated, and I'm pretty sure you touched on it at least once, that they might have had first right of refusal, for when being offered toys. I don't know. Like I know a couple of us have been floating around that idea. I don't know anything about legal, but if either they're licensing it directly to Mattel in 2023, or they're going to give them first right of refusal, would that mean that toy prices for Mattel would actually start to spike? Because right now we've been fortunate. The prices for Mattel for Master Universe has only gone up a little compared to like Marvel Legends or Star Wars, and for whatever reason, Power Rangers here in Canada, they just skyrocket. We're up to, and our dollar is very weak, so we're up to $45 a figure right now. It's insane when our regular price was $29 and maybe $32. Oh. Right? Yeah, it's crazy up here, but it has more to do with the dollar amount and buying power. But in your opinion, if they start licensing it to Mattel from Universal, does that mean that there could be a spike in toy prices for MOTU going forward?
So that's interesting, because I think that's kind of a misconception people have. The price on toys is almost entirely based on material and labor costs. The licensor fee that a company pays, that just tends to be like, I mean, a perfect example is like, look at Black Series Star Wars versus Classified G.I. Joe. So Classified is owned, I mean, G.I. Joe is owned by Hasbro outright, 190%. So if they wanted to, they could put like a ridiculous amount of stuff with like more hands, more heads, more weapons, that kind of stuff. There's actually, I did an interview with Bobby Valla, who does the Action Force line. He used to work at Hasbro on G.I. Joe and Marvel. But I did an interview with him about a year ago, and he talked about this. You can see it on my channel if you just, search YouTube for Spector Creative G.I. Joe, it'll come up. But he talked about how, when you look at like the 3 Hasbro lines, there's 6, or I guess 4 now with Power Rangers, you can see how, like with Star Wars, you don't get a Build-A-Figure piece. With Marvel Legends, you do. And it's, it's like same thing, 6-inch figure, yet one brand you're getting a lot more in terms of a Build-A-Figure piece, and that's because of the royalty. Star Wars has a really, really high royalty rate. But it doesn't affect the SRP. I know it's kind of complicated because retailers need to sort of have like a universal price they're selling 6-inch figures for. And the way that a company like Hasbro or Mattel or Jakks Spin Master, anybody makes up for a higher royalty is putting less into the product. In the case like Star Wars, there's no Build-A-Figure. It's not where they would raise the price of one brand versus another. So even though Star Wars has a higher royalty than Marvel, even though they're both going to Disney, you don't see a difference in price. They're still, whatever they, I think $24.99 is the current SRP, which is completely driven by the labor and material and shipping, which have all skyrocketed. Honestly, and I've said this in a few videos and some podcasts, I'm surprised that toy companies sort of held out on price increases as long as they did. These should have happened years ago. Their margins were definitely slipping. As far as why has Mattel not gone up to the $24.99, I think we'll see that very quickly, not because they're paying more royalties. If they do something with Universal in 2023, well, they're still paying Universal royalties this year. I mean, as far as I know, and I mean, obviously I don't have access to Mattel's books, but when we did Classics, we paid a royalty for every single SKU to Classic Media. Classic Media is now owned by Universal. So I have to assume that every MOTU SKU that Mattel has been making over the past 3 years or whatever is also been paying the same royalty to Classic Media through Universal, or Universal to Classic Media. Or if Classic Media even exists anymore, if it's just absorbed by...
So there's an interesting point, right? There's an interesting point. I think a lot of people, and you know what? Let's just tackle the elephant in the room, okay? So, I've gotten a lot of comments on my
spout.
Exactly. Okay, so just on that, do you think it's an air hose or do you think it's a water hose? What are your thoughts on that? Because I couldn't tell. For Snout Spout, do you think
you're talking about the Origins figure?
Yes. For Snout Spout, do you think it's going to be an air hose or a water nose?
Gosh, I couldn't even tell you. They've been so all over the map with some figures having the action feature and others not. There's no consistency.
That's the thing. Let's circle back to that. We'll get, when we start going through all the photos. We'll get into that part of the discussion. But I did want to mention this because it's a bit of an elephant in the room right now. I've been getting a lot of comments on our last our last interview from about a month ago, and a lot of people, some people who are kind of critical. They're like, "Oh, Scott was saying this for years that the Mattel's going to lose the license, and now he's been proven wrong." But your point just now, it brings up a huge hole in that argument, right? And I wasn't aware of it. I'm not sure a lot of people were. But the fact that that they've already been paying a royalty to Universal, like for God knows how many years, doesn't that mean that they will just continue that they could possibly just continue this relationship? You know what I mean? So why like now we were looking at trends where there was peg warmers, and then there was reissues and things and repaints, and that's usually a sign that a line's going to die. But because they already had all these, as you said, they had these things planned about a year ago at least for this 40th anniversary, right? And the fact that they've been paying these royalties, doesn't that just tell us that this relationship could continue, and that we could be seeing MOTU more if they decide to continue it? Or because everyone's been saying that you were wrong and things like that. But the fact that you've been given this information now kind of leads me to believe that you've always known this from the beginning. What are your thoughts on that? Because people are too critical sometimes, in my opinion.
I mean, if I'm wrong, hey, for those things wrong, and I have a history of sort of presenting things and people saying I'm wrong, and then like coming forth and being like, no, here's the proof, and people are like, oh, okay, yeah, like when I said I had the 1987 He-Man Bible with Dare, or solving the Wonder Bread He-Man thing. There's been a lot of cases over this. So I'm not really concerned with what people say, because I'll either be proven right or wrong, in time. I don't have a stake in it. I could care either way. I'm just presenting facts. It's not like this affects me in any way. To answer your question, So yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I've been saying is they already have a relationship with Universal that involves paying them a royalty. And yeah, Universal could be like, hey, cool, free money for us. Keep doing what you're doing. Like, no problem. We got plenty of our own brands. If you're making money off this, we're getting some checks every month. Yay. So yeah, it could just continue as is. Will the trademark change? Possibly. And here's something to throw out there for all the all the haters out there, who are saying I'm making this up. Why don't you just call Mattel and ask them? Or why don't they just state, yes, we own Masters of the Universe, or yes, Universal owns it and we pay a royalty? Like, there's such an easy way to get an answer to this. Or call Universal. Like, why doesn't someone just call Universal's, public relations or press office and ask them, what is, do they own Masters of the Universe? Like, how is this a difficult thing?
I hear what you're saying, but not everyone has access to to a press pass, and some people, obviously YouTubers and what have you, but a lot of us just want the line to continue. So I think that's really where a lot of people who are very critical about these statements are affected. But I think what tends to happen is when Mattel shows up, and they actually technically did not show up at PowerCon. They sent representatives to do the presentation, or sorry, they sent clips, a whole slideshow to do the presentation. They actually weren't there, and on the slideshow it actually just says a statement like MOTU's not going anywhere, or what like I think you touched on the actual verbiage that they used during PowerCon, that MOTU will continue in 2022 into 2023. When they make statements like that, I think it really gives a lot of MOTU fans hope, and a lot of people, just kind of take that as Bible and like, oh, we were right. Mattel owns the rights. Scott was wrong. That those types of things. But obviously, you've been able to, explain how that goes. But how do you deal with these people? I mean, like it's not it can't be easy to have.
Well, let's see. I'm going to actually call. All right, bear with. I'm going to call up that image. Let's see. That was here. We're gonna nip this in the bud. All right, let's see. Sure, Mattel PowerCon to Origin slide. Let me get it. Let me make sure I'm looking at it, and then we're going to. Let's see. No, I don't want that.
Let me like if you put in the private chat the link, I can bring it up. I can bring it up on the screen once you find it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm actually searching. I'm using my computer.
Okay.
But I know because
tell me your search term. Tell me your search term.
Let's see.
Yeah. Tell me your search term. I'll be able to find it that way.
Yep. I'm finding the slide. Not has the.
Okay. While you're searching for it, I'm going to do some shout outs.
It was PowerCon 2021, right?
It would have been okay. PowerCon.
No, we can find this in like seconds here.
I think it was PowerCon 2020, actually. I think. All right. While you're doing that, I'm going to make some shout outs to some people. Hey, Jason, good to see you, my friend. You're here for He-Man's birthday. Awesome, of course. Rufus, why is Scott the only one talking about Mattel losing MOTU? Well, you know what? Because Scott, I think Scott has some inside information, has a better understanding than a lot of us, and of course, was deep entrenched to some of those negotiations. I can't speak for Scott, but he's right here. He can probably talk about that later. Cesar76, I enjoy Revelation. So do I, Cesar. Jigsaw Nora, I like the Revelations toy line, and I didn't mind the cartoon. It was pretty good to me. I totally agree. Rai Ken, be safe, man. Thanks, Rai. Good to see you, my buddy. Oh, sorry, you were talking to Renegade Biker. Yes, Renegade, I hope you're doing well and staying safe. I heard that you had a bit of a tumble yesterday, so I hope everything's okay. Machine Man, Vala actually said he got called by Hasbro for talking about value. That's weird. I don't know. Maybe Scott can talk about a little bit about that. The Last Nerd Standing just bought.
Sorry, what was that one?
I'm not sure. It says here, if you take a look at the screen, Vala actually said he got called by Hasbro for talking about value. I'm not really sure what that means. that's competition as far as I'm concerned. Like, what why would
yes, so what it was, and I'm now down to looking at thumbnails on my thing, this image. So yes, so Hasbro told I found it. Yay. Hasbro told Bobby Valla to stop talking about how Hasbro deliberately puts fewer accessories in G.I. Joe toys so that they can keep the price value the same with licensed toys.
Oh, that's so he had inside information.
So if you actually right, which he actually shared on the video I talked about earlier. So if you go on YouTube and if you YouTube like Spector Creative G.I. Joe, you'll find the interview I did with him where he talks about that, and Hasbro called him and said, yeah, you need to stop talking about this, but he recorded it on my channel, so it's not like he had, a way to pull it down.
Got you. So basically, it was just a warning from their legal department, and then kind of like it is what it is, right? Interesting. Where's the slide? Do you have the URL? Maybe I can just type it up. Or what was your search? What was your search?
No, but I found my
it's on your video.
I couldn't find it with the search term, but what I pulled up was the thumbnail for my video, which
okay, perfect. Which video was it? I'll bring that up and we'll
okay. Can you see my screen?
Let me take a look.
Is that working?
Hold on. Give me 1 second. To the right. Pan to the right. Can you pan to the right? Yeah, a little bit more. All right, no, I'll find it. Don't worry about it, Scott. Put it back on you. I'll find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I found it once because I used it in my thumbnail. But basically, so here's their slide. I'm just going to read it out loud. Dispelling the rumors. 1, MOTU isn't going away. 2, there are no plans to discontinue Origins. All right. So you can even just put if you just want to take those words, that way you don't have to search for the slide. So let's look at that, shall we? Let's look at these sentences, because this is a perfect example of, I made another video on my channel called Weasel words. It's something I learned when I was back in advertising, in pharmaceutical advertising, that my first boss taught me about, which is when you deliberately use words that the intended audience will project their, I guess, not bias, but their expectations on, and interpret it through their pre-existing bias, if you will. And in this case, the bias that MOTU fans have is that MOTU will continue. All right, so let's take a look at the actual verbiage here, because this is such a textbook example. MOTU isn't going away in 2023. Yes, you're right. It's still going to exist. The Masters of the Universe brand will absolutely exist in 2023. Does this address who's it? Does this address whether or not product is at stores? Does it talk about a movie being out? No. It just says Masters of the Universe isn't going away in 2023. So before we get to the second bullet, let's talk about this one. So again, black and white, the brands, it's like saying, Nike isn't going away in 2023, or Apple, or Spider-Man, or Sony. Like, all these brands are going to exist in 2023. What a sort of ridiculous top-line statement. The U.S. government is going to exist in 2023. Like, of course. So, all right. So that's one thing. So yeah. So interpreting that to mean there's going to be a movie, there's going to be a toy line, the rights are going to revert to Mattel. That sentence addresses none of that. All right, let's look at the second sentence here. There are no plans to discontinue Origins. All right, so this one I'm personally, I guess, acquainted with, because we used to use this all the time, and I would see companies even also use this, but I'd probably have said it myself. This is like exactly Playbook 101 for talking to a call it passionate fan base. So there are no plans to discontinue Origins. Yeah, you're right. I have no plans to go out for Chinese food tonight, right now. I have no plans for that. A couple hours from now, my wife might come and say, hey, honey, you want to go for Chinese food? Great. So one, plans change. Two, what this sentence is doing is, and more importantly, is it's basically saying, while we don't have plans to discontinue insert any product line, it doesn't mean it might be discontinued because, I don't know, retailers stop ordering it. There's not enough interest from consumers. It costs too much to make it. We're losing the license. There's a million reasons why any brand has a product line that goes away. So this is a perfect example of a Weasel word, because what they're saying is there are no plans to discontinue the line. It doesn't mean it's not going to be discontinued. It just means, and I'm not saying it is going to be discontinued, but I'm saying the wiggle room, this is very deliberate. These words, like a lot of thought was put behind how do we phrase this. And this is done specifically to give, and this is not a Mattel thing. All companies do this. So I'm not talking about Mattel or Hasbro. I'm talking about consumer product companies. So yeah, they're basically saying, like, we don't have any plans to discontinue it. I mean, Target and Walmart may have plans to discontinue it because the brand isn't doing well. We'd love to keep shipping it. Of course we'd love to keep shipping it. It's making us money. It's making Universal money. But it's out of their hands whether they're not the ones who get to make the decision if it's discontinued. That's the retailers. So of course the manufacturer doesn't have plans. Of course they don't, because the retailer is the one who makes the decision.
Yeah, I was trying to find the the thumbnail, but I never could. But that makes a lot of sense, and that's exactly what you've been saying for the last few years. But with this new revelation of Masterverse and Origins figures, I think at the end of the day, at the very least, fans can just rest assured now that at least for the next year, we're going to be seeing Master of the Universe on the shelves. And I think, I think between the two of us, I'm very excited, and I think you're very excited as well. What are your thoughts? Let's just talk about it. What are your thoughts about this brand new line that has been released? Whether it's Origins, whether it's Masterverse, what are your thoughts?
Really, it's kind of been where I've always been, is that I'm so excited that MOTU's at retail. I'm still not 100% convinced that kids are into the brand. I did at the week that the show aired. That week, for the next 2 week or even 2 weeks, there was almost no CGI product at store, which is great because it means kids saw it and they rushed out and bought stuff. I'd like to see more tangible proof that kids are into the brand. I don't know if you're aware of the statements Todd McFarlane made last week.
According to Todd McFarlane said yesterday the price increase are more tied to keeping shareholders and Hasbro happy, and why is he able to keep the figures price lower? I guess that's a different statement than what you're. I just noticed it. I was literally scrolling through it. But which statement were you talking about, Scott?
Oh yeah, but I can answer both of them. Hold on, I'm going to write that one down because that's actually Todd. Yes, yeah, so I've talked for a long time. McFarlane, like people always ask, how does McFarlane Toys keep their prices down and so much tooling? It's because they're not publicly owned. They're not committed to the stockholders. And so, yes, the reason that Hasbro has to raise the price, it's not because of the stockholders, but it's because the line isn't delivering the margins that it needs to. Every product line has a margin requirement. They have to deliver X amount of dollars, percentage dollars. And if action figures as a category are no longer doing that because prices are going up, that's why the stockholders are upset. It's not because they're anti-action figure. they're anti-product that's not making its margin target. So, but the other thing that Todd said last week, though, was it was Shartimus Prime interviewed him and asked him about why he doesn't do more female action figures. And if you could do a whole wave of female action figures, and Todd was like, absolutely not, I can't, because they'll never sell at retail. And there was pushback saying, well, but these are for adult collectors. And Todd was like, no, they're not. They're sold at retail. They're for boys or girls, kids. And if they're sold in the boys action figure aisle, they're most likely going to boys. If they're sold in the girls doll aisle, they're most likely going to girls. Like, not that boys can't play with dolls and girls can't play with action figures, but that's just not the way most families and kids purchase product. Most boys buy aggressive product. Most girls buy nurturing product. It's the way their brains function. So you're going back to Todd's statement. It just reinforces the fact that this aisle is not for us. It is the aisle that's for collectors is that thing like Toys R Us has the collector vector and Target and Walmart have that spot behind electronics. It has a much lower velocity requirement of how many units they have to sell. Anything sold in the retail aisle is for kids. If collectors are also buying it, awesome. But that's the biggest thing that just trips us up. And anytime we're getting to a position where we can't figure out why something's happening, take a step back and say, because this product is for children and there's not enough children buying it. That's the answer to like 90% of what happens with toy lines.
So there is a really, really good point, and this is something that has a lot of people. I get this comment so many times on my channel, and it just frustrates me a little bit because a lot of people I get this comment a lot. They're like, oh, Toys R Us is gonna die again. Why? Because they're not filling their aisles with action figures. They're not filling their aisles with adult collectibles. They're not filling their aisles with expensive, big, huge ticket priced items that are not for kids. And I'm looking at this like, are you guys crazy? They're called Toys R Us, right? They have a section called here in Canada. They have a section called Babies R Us. Guys, toys are made for kids. And you know what? You keep hearing this argument over and over again. Oh, kids don't play with toys. They play with iPads. They play with Nintendo. They play with, video games. Yeah, but not toddlers and not, preschoolers and not and even grade schoolers still play with kids. You still see your LOL surprise. You still see your, what's it called? You still see Barbie. Barbie's a massive product, right? You would know that firsthand. Barbie is huge. As far as I know, it's still number 1 or number 2 or 3 for best toy line right now, something like that. At least in the girls category, and
or look at Hot Wheels.
Exactly, Hot Wheels are for kids, right? And they aren't they number 2? Like it like in terms of the boys category, like it's always been up there in terms of the top 10. Right, and that's how Mattel has always stayed in the game. But it just frustrates me so much when people start like just throwing out that argument that no, if they sold nothing but action figures for adults, they would do so well. The answer to me is that no, they wouldn't. They would crash and burn. I can almost guarantee that high priced what's it called, retail, and when we say high priced, when you think about it, they're actually not that high priced. Action figures like Star Wars and Marvel Legends, these more adult type of toys. If they only sold those exclusively, they would not be a gigantic conglomerate the way they are. They would be little what's called fan channels and fan stores, like comic book stores, like Big Bad Toy Store. You know what I mean? Like they would be smaller regional market type of. Even though they ship all over the country, they would be still very regional, in my opinion. But it's always frustrated me on that level. And hearing it from you, again, it just makes sense to me. Toys are made for kids. Like that's an argument that should not be, in doubt. It's crazy. I don't know. Sorry, I got on my high horse there. I got on my soapbox. But seriously, what do you?
No, it's and I think I think part of the answer to the question is if there was a market for a store, a retailer, to just sell action, high-end action figures to adults, it would exist. Somebody would open it. Somebody would do it. If there was a market for it, but there's not. That's why you don't see, action, adult collectibles are us. Like, that store doesn't exist because there's not enough people.
Well, Big Bad Toy Store. If you read their story, right? Big Bad Toy Store, they were created specifically to cater to an adult market, right? And they're doing very, very well. But when you think about, they're regional. They don't even have 2 or 3. I think they have one warehouse in one state and a main business in another. But the reality is they're regional. Like, people don't get this. You have Toys R Us. They have in Canada anyway. They have stores in multiple cities here, right? In Ontario alone, and across Canada, they have a ton of stores, right? So it's just that thing where people just want to believe that people just want to believe that the toys are made for adults and which it's great that they are, but a toy company, a dedicated toy company, which there aren't that many anymore, right? Again, Toys R Us here in Canada is I think the only dedicated toy company left, right? And again, it came out of the ashes of a very successful model. And now, right, with the way toy prices are going with adult collectibles, I'm scared. I'm scared that they're gonna very, very soon start to thin out the adult collectible line in favor of their bigger sellers, which are, of course, for kids.
Yeah, and that's where the money is. I mean, the money's in preschool toys.
Absolutely, 100%. But you know what? You and I can talk. You and I can talk retail and all this great stuff for forever. But what we've really come to talk about here, which is always fun, is of course Masters of the Universe. And I wanted to bring up a couple of slides, and get your take on what you think of these amazing figures. Considering that at least 1 or 2 of them you've had you've had your fingers on in terms of like production for past toy lines. So I would love to share that with you. So let's bring this up. Sorry, should have had that ready. Where are you? Where did you go? Okay, that's not good. Oh, that's where you went. Yeah, sorry, I had brought up this slide, which was there. It is. Yeah, so you were talking about the Tony, and there it is. So. It's the Tati. So yeah, the Toy Association action figure of the year was indeed Master of the Universe from Mattel. That's amazing, considering the type of competition they had. I mean, that they have Marvel Legends, they have Star Wars. It's pretty amazing that they actually won Toy of the Year this year for a brand which literally they created their own brand again, right? In terms of the television show, basically a relaunch, if you will. What are your thoughts on that, though, Scott? Like, how did they manage to win action figure of the year? That's crazy.
Oh boy. How do I say this without making any parties? Oh God. Let's just say it's a very. I can't even say that.
You want to sidestep that? You want to sidestep that one? Maybe we should sidestep.
Well, let's just leave it at this. What do you guys think? Was Masterverse the best action figure toy line of the year? I'll leave it at that.
I personally love it, but you know what? I see where you're coming from. Wink, wink. I see what you're saying there. All right, huge shout out to Snell World. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat, my friend. I need 87 Sorceress, Duncan, and Tila to go with my He-Man and 2 Skeletors. So do I, my friend. So do I. If they and you know what, since that topic was brought up, let's just go ahead and talk about it. So they released the anniversary He-Man, and you know what, my heart, what an amazing announcement. What are your thoughts on that announcement, Scott?
I mean, it's very cool. I mean, this is the first thing I think I've seen that I've been tempted to be like, oh, maybe I'll buy that. But then, I'm like, oh, but I basically already have the classics figure, and even it's the arm pose. And I wish we had done alternate hands with Origins. That's like when, looking back, so that we could have done this. I mean, it's the perfect retail item for the brand for the 40th. It's plus it gives them a brand new buck. Or unless, I mean, I don't know how many parts they're using from a Revelation figure. If there's a reuse, or maybe it's the same, just a new head and vest. To me, the best thing is that it shows that like this, they basically could more or less do classics at retail. There'll be less paint and less accessories than classics had. I mean, you can tell if you put this figure side by side with classics He-Man, you can really notice the difference in paint. And we the classics figures had like ridiculous amounts of deco. But this is a great option for people who missed out on classics. There's going to be the dichotomy that they also have Origins out there, which is like the classic look. And I'd like to say, like, I wish that this is what was going to be ongoing. Like they would start, making more figures like this. That would be what I mean. As a fan, I'd like to see that. I don't know if that's what we're going to get, just because I know the way corporate looks at things. I know there was a lot of mixed stuff, but I think it's really cool. I think it's the perfect retail item. It's a low cost basic He-Man with today's articulation. Especially for those who may have missed out on classics. It's really cool.
So yeah, let's take a little bit of a dive here and take a look at some of the parts, because I think if we examine a little bit, so I think they've reused the arms. I think that much is pretty clear. I think they reused the bottom part of the torso. The legs, I believe, are the same. There's a little bit of sculpting maybe on the feet, but I think they actually might be shared by New Eternia, without the knife. The loincloth is pretty much the same, and I think the belt is shared as well. I think where they really concentrated on was the chest. I don't know. Do you agree, Scott? Because the chest looks like it's a bit beefier here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have Revelation He-Man. Here, I'll bring it up just so I can look at it online.
Oh, I got it.
Oh, you got it?
I think I got one. Yeah.
Masterverse.
Keep talking. I'll just try to find one.
It's okay. Well, I've got an image online. I mean, that I can. Yeah. No, they definitely. God, now I'm reminded why I. Yeah, I mean, it's just the goofy proportions. The head, yeah, okay, so yeah, you can definitely tell that. No, I think it might be the same chest. I think they just fixed the harness and and they shortened the loincloth, which helps a lot.
I'm not sure, Scott, because if you look at this, the chest looks really tiny. There's the Toddy winner, right? So if you see the chest here,
all right, now bring up the other. All right, now bring up the other one.
Yeah, see. Well, look at how. Okay,
yeah.
All right, so let's look at that one, and I'm gonna pull this over here because I'm pretty sure it was one of these. Yeah. So see how the chest kind of like bulges out a little bit more. It's a little bit more voluminous, whereas here it almost looks like it's sunken in. I don't know. It could be the lighting. It could be anything.
It's the head.
But,
it's the head.
The head. Maybe that's
no,
it.
It's the head.
Yeah.
It's the same body. It's absolutely the same body. It's the head. It's the head and the way the armor lays. It's absolutely the same body.
I see. All right. Yeah. But and the straps are much more form-fitting and much thicker, right? So that's
exactly. It's the vest and the head is properly proportioned. This one had the head's too small.
Got you. Interesting. It's amazing what those what those few changes can do for a figure, right? Now
you get you get more from a head than anything.
Absolutely. If it's a little bit, even if it's just a tiny bit bigger, it actually helps out, right? Because again, these are superhero proportions, right? So it's one of those things. Now, I don't know if this question has ever been brought up. I'm pretty sure it has. Why the change from, like, I think a lot of people have wondered about this. Why was there a dedicated effort to change the Iron Cross to the H? Was that ever in discussions at all? I'm not sure if you've ever brought that up.
I did a whole video on it
Okay.
on my channel. So yeah, I mean, you could Spector Creative Iron Cross or He-Man symbol. Yeah, I mean, the Iron Cross has been, preempted. Like most people, know it as a World War II Germany thing, which brings a lot of hate and horrible imagery. But the Iron Cross dates back hundreds, if not thousands of years. That's what my video was basically tracing it back to its origins in the Crusades, and the Prussian army used it for centuries. And it was used on a lot of barbarian art, and that's where it wound up on He-Man because of Steve, or not Steve, Roger Sweet. Roger Sweet's prototype had it. But in today's political correct world, having an image that was, in the not too recent past, used by Nazis, literally as a, Nazi symbol, we can, call that what it is. But two, He-Man suffers from a major icon problem. He doesn't have one. Thundercats has one of the best one. Batman has one of the best ones. Spider-Man says, they've made up one for Iron Man, either using an arc reactor or his face, but He-Man doesn't have a chest emblem, a superhero icon, and they can't use that Iron Cross for that reason. And also because if you just use the Iron Cross, the red Iron Cross there, and you just put that up on us, like nobody's going to, oh, He-Man, versus the way that you can get that with Thundercats, because the Iron Cross has been used by militaries for hundreds, again, not thousands of years. So that's why it doesn't work. It's not universal to He-Man. That's why you see, them trying to, what they're doing is they're trying to create a bat symbol, something, gotcha. a Thundercats symbol that they can use for the brand. But it's too late. The brand's been out for 40 years. You can't.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. But the problem is, of course, the ones who grew up with it, we look at that, we're like, that's not the He-Man symbol. It's the Iron Cross. Now again, I missed that episode. I'm gonna have to go watch it again, because honestly, that to me is a huge a question that I've had for years. All right, so let's look at last slide for this one. Oh my gosh, this packaging. Now, you've already talked about the packaging for Master Universe, Masterverse before. What are your thoughts on this gorgeous, in my opinion, gorgeous anniversary artwork? What are your thoughts?
This is almost to a T what we were going to put classics in originally.
Really? That's awesome.
The Four Horsemen came up with it. They're the ones who pitched it. I think I have it somewhere. God, I gotta find it. I know I kept it because it was just something they brought in, so it wasn't official Mattel property. It was something they brought in. And I think but we had no money, so that's why we had to go with the green brick, because it was already from the King Grayskull figure. But this is almost to a T the way the Horsemen proposed packaging classics.
Well, there's a great episode for you if you ever want to, if you can ever find it. That's excellent. I love the way they're posing the figures in packaging right now. Was that even possible when you were doing classics?
Yeah, I mean, I think the He-Man right there. I mean, that's very similar to how we what we packed figures out. And especially I think classics had some of the best pack outs in any toy line, and that's because we were doing that deliberately. Most toy lines, they're going for piece count, because they're showing it off to moms and kids in the toy aisle. And so the idea is to show you everything you're getting in package. With classics, we didn't have to do that because it wasn't sold at retail. It was sold online to adult collectors directly. So we could do all sorts of cool pack outs, and Strobo was standing to his side, and Mighty Spector was doing touching his controller. I made sure of that. So it's cool that they're doing something that's not just basic. But yeah, anyone can do this. They just don't.
Yeah, so I guess you had the opportunity because it was a direct sale market, and in a way, you guys were one of the first to actually do it on the regular. Then interesting. All right, let's keep moving. So Shira, holy crap! What are your thoughts on Shira? I have so many thoughts, but what are your thoughts on Shira right now?
I think this is definitely one of the better Shiras I've seen. A little bit still masculine because for my taste, with the arms, because obviously it's a reuse from Tila, but a very beautiful face. I love the second mask with the white eyes. I think that's awesome. Um, it's funny how this figure, they're giving you two different heads, one with the mask over the eyes and one with the Filmation look. When we did her in classics, we made that head there. The mask was reversible, so you could either have it up or down. And fans were so pissed off at that because it meant there was a peg in her forehead for the mask. And I was like, well, we can't afford to give you a third head. This was our option. It's like, if you only wanted two heads, this is what you'd get. So it's like, I feel like, yeah, see, if you didn't have the peg that we did, this is it. But it's great, and I love the two capes. Yeah, I'd love to see some statement clarifying what the hell is going on with the rights to She-Ra, and because it's not the same brand and it's a mess. So I'd love to know do they have access to everything? I know She-Ra has always been She-Ra and Hordak are the loopholes, but they're doing Catra. So I don't know. I hope they can do everybody.
Yeah, it's crazy. But having said that, I'm hoping that since they've announced new Eternia, which does that classify as a new brand, or is that something, or because they're still using Skeletor and He-Man, I guess it's still in that universe. But at least with Princess of Power, it being a different property, maybe that line can continue on, maybe somehow. Again, the questions, right? So many questions. Michael Traverso, hey, thanks for the super chat, my brother. Thank you so much. Has anyone popped the head off of He-Man from a vintage and slapped it on the Masterverse He-Man? This body looks like a Masterverse faker body. I think the heads are too small. I think they're even smaller than because if I'm not mistaken, Masterverse figures are actually almost 7.5 inch, if not 8 inches tall, and I think classics were 7 inches. Am I correct, Scott?
So classics were 6.5, but they were designed to basically be 6-inch figures with just a little bit bigger. In basically the same way, in the vintage line, your He-Man figures were just a little bit bigger than all your other action figures. The Masterverse line is a 7-inch line. And it's funny because the difference in that ½ inch is actually everything. A 7-inch figure can't hang out with a 6-inch figure, but a 6.5-inch figure or a 5.5-inch figure could hang out with you can go a ½ inch in either direction, but once you go a whole inch, the lines stop working. It's crazy. That's just visually. So yeah. So people have put classics heads on these figures, but the scale is off by ½ inch or a full inch.
They look really. Yeah, they tend to look a little odd. There are a lot of customizers out there, so that's the really big thing. All right, so yeah, I'm super excited about Shira, and I do agree. I mean, her overall physique is a little bit masculine. I'm just gonna really quickly run over here to my sink now. I'm gonna grab. So this was after your time, Scott, but that's the Filmation She-Ra. Let me just, let's just do it this way. Yeah. So.
Yep. Oh no. I know that.
Yeah, that's the Filmation She-Ra that was done by Super7, right? But it's still the Four Horsemen, right? And this is my ideal She-Ra right here. This is what I remember from the show, right? This is how I've always looked at my She-Ra. But at the same time, she has the lineage of being from the Princess of Power line, which is why she had that reversible mask from your version in classics, right? Because the original She-Ra had a mask which you could put this way or as a tiara going up, right? And I think that was the homage that you guys were going for. But what are your thoughts about this one? I mean, again, you didn't work on this one, but I personally like this version. It has its problems. I think all figures have their problems, but I really did like the work that the Four Horsemen did with this one in particular.
I think for people who want action figures based on the animated series, these are perfect. They're amazing. Personally, for me, I like the, I guess, classic aesthetic, the toy aesthetic, if you will. But the plan was always to do all of these, like everything the Super 7 was doing. I mean, that was all what the plan. I mean, I was still at Mattel when we were working on the first few waves, the animated line. I love that Super 7 kept it going for as long as they did.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are definitely going to, this more, slightly beefed up version of She-Ra. I think that there's going to be, people who love it, people who hate it, people who don't like it, and people who are in the middle, like myself. I don't. It doesn't detract from what I want from the character, but at the same time, I think I'd prefer this one though, in my opinion. But I guess we'll see. Do you think that there's a possibility of a She-Ra cartoon, in the future? I think a lot of people have been asking that question.
But didn't we just have one like 2 years ago?
I don't think I'm going to go there.
I mean, that answers your question. Like, they just did a She-Ra cartoon. Could they do another one? Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I just put my foot in my mouth there. Yeah, you're right. Actually,
and you'll notice that one was done by Universal.
Oh, that is true, right? Yeah, I guess that is true. Yeah. But okay, fine. Then I'll put the question on his head. Do you think that they'll do a traditional She-Ra, something closer to? So do you think they'll do a Revelations type of She-Ra? Like, do you think She-Ra will show up in Revelations? I guess.
I mean, that's totally a licensing. Like, I don't know what the status is of She-Ra being part of MOTU. Where I left things off, she wasn't, even though we were, we made quite a few of them in classics. But that was because no one was paying attention. So, if she can, that'd be like, if she's legally available, I'm sure they'd put her in there if there's a second season. They'd be fools not to.
I know.
But I don't know if there'll be a second season, and B, I don't know if they have access to her. If they do, yay. If they don't,
Crazy. Michael, what are you doing, man? Thank you again so much for the super chat. 1982 He-Man head on Masterverse body. Boom. I fixed your small head body. You're welcome. I saw that in the first few releases when Masterverse was coming out. People were using the old MOTU, the old Origins heads to try and stick onto the Masterverse bodies. It sort of worked, but you had to hollow. I think you had to hollow out a part of the head, or something vice versa, because the pegs aren't actually the right size. So you had to do a little bit of customizing to actually get the head on top.
See, they would have been so smart to make them universal pegs.
It would have been. It would have been such a great, action feature, right? I mean, you're doing it anyway, right? Anyway, opportunity lost. Thank you again, Michael. Awesome stuff. Toy Beast says, super interesting. Retail figs can only survive at a certain price point. Collector figures are out there, but you'll pay a premium. Super 7 figs are a good comparison. What are your thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. Like, if you want a line that's only aimed at an adult collector, it's Super 7 Ultimates. Bam, sold online. You have to like pre-order them like ahead before they even go into production. Like, and they're like $50 each. That's bam, there you go.
King Simba, Noel, says, Mr. J, does Scott feel Mattel will do an Origin Snake Mountain or Fright Some Man? This is the question I've always wanted. Or I could see Mattel Creations doing it for retailers if retailers won't decide to carry it. Wow, that's actually a really good question. What are your thoughts, Scott?
If retail, it's based on sales. I mean, we've already seen, the line got a shot in the arm with the toady and all of that. If sales demand it, I mean, they'll make whatever will sell. But no toy company is going to take a chance on a giant play set. Without retail support. So if retailers are like, we want to expand. I'm sorry.
But then the follow-up question about Mattel Creations, if there's a crowdsource option, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes. Yeah. So that absolutely. So like that would be perfect for Mattel Creations if you know, I mean, I don't think they've done anything since like that WWE ring a while back.
I think I think, but they haven't been high. They haven't been high profile projects like what we're looking at. I think they've. Well, I see what you're saying. You're saying if they have to reach a certain threshold, right? The actual crowdsourcing itself. Honestly, I think the last one they did was a board game or something. I think that was the last one. I don't think it had anything to do with toys.
Yeah, I mean, I would see like like the HasLab model with the Sentinel and then the sail barge and all that. Like that would be a great model, like we did with Castle Grayskull for Classics. Like it was the exact same model. It just was predated all that by 10 years.
Exactly, and then Super7 followed that up with the Snake Mountain, which you had a hand in, but unfortunately I never realized it. It's my understanding that your Snake Mountain was at least a few like almost half a foot taller from what and a little bit wider from what I understand. I don't know if you've seen that.
And it had electronics too. The designers were like insistent on that.
What would the price point have been on your version versus what the Super7 finally came up with?
Oh, I mean, what was Castle Grayskull? Was it 300? Was it 250? I don't even remember what.
I think at the end it was 300. Yeah, I think at the time.
But I mean, before shipping, like just well, okay. So sorry, my memory fades. It's been 10 years.
Right there with you.
Like we're also, I mean, like we're talking about if Snake Mountain had come out in like 2016, it probably would have been maybe 400, maybe.
That would have been so great.
How much was Super7's?
Super7 was Super7. I paid. I think it was close to 600. I think it was. Let me just double check. I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth because up here in Canada, I ended up paying up nearly $800 Canadian for it. So give me one. But yeah, like. Honest, but would it have flown? What do you think, Scott? I mean, at the time when you were doing it, do you think there was, because you already went through the Castle Grayskull model? Do you think the Snake Mountain would have flown with all the electronics and everything involved?
No, I mean, I think we probably would have had to remove the electronics at the end of the day to get the cost where we wanted. I know the other thing that was in there that didn't want. Like, there was a bunch of stuff, but I know one of them was like a portal. Like the way Skeletor would always come through those yellow portals, and that was going to be like a pre-order bonus or something. I'd have to look. I'd have to try to find the stuff, but I know we were definitely working on stuff that there would be like basically added accessories if you bought it ahead of time or early or something. I'll have to look it up and I'll do a video on it.
Yeah, $600 pre-shipping. So. Yeah, it it was not a cheap, and I remember that correlates with what I had. I had $800 before shipping, and after that, I don't even want to think about what I actually pay. But a good, gorgeous set. I'm so happy they actually realized that it was absolutely amazing. Ryber Ken says the Iron Cross is a symbol for the Templar Knights. Oh, yeah. Is that true? I'm not.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant. I mentioned that. Go back 45 minutes.
No, I know. I was saying I'm gonna have to watch your whole video because I'm fascinated.
Well, no, I mean, I said that on your while we were discussing. Back to the Knights Templar.
Yeah. I was doing research
so, yes,
at the time.
You're right. But yes, we said that.
I know. Again, I was doing research while we were discussing that. All right. So now let's touch on what are your thoughts about because what's it called? Sorry, I'm in the wrong section here. They already have an ongoing action figure line for Netflix 3D, right? MOTU. What are your thoughts on bringing them into the Masterverse? Like what? Because I have my thoughts, but I'm curious about what you think.
I mean, you can never go wrong doing your A-list hero and villain, and in a current content way. This is basically just taking for the the older boy and the adult collector who likes the show. If they want to get He-Man or Skeletor, so they could hang out with in the 7-inch world and be fully articulated. I think it's just it's symbolic of the way they're taking the Masterverse line. It's going to be like sort of all styles, all, it's all, it's like how in Marvel Legends you can get movie style and comic book style in, the same wave. And I think you can't separate it anymore. There's not enough retail space to justify multiple lines. So you just got to kind of put it all in the same one.
Crazy. I love the sculpt, though. I think that the technology has just gotten so far ahead that everything we're seeing here is just getting better and better and better. And compared to the very first releases of the Masterverse, just by these shots, which of course we can barely tell, even though they're slightly high resolution, it's still hard to tell exactly what it's going to look like when it finally gets in hand. But I think that they really are nailing it out of the park with this Masterverse line. So what are your thoughts on the Masterverse overall, like so far, having had them for over a year now?
Like I said, I've said it kind of earlier, I like that it's an option for people who missed out on classics or who, collect at the 6-inch, 7-inch scale. Personally, for me, I already have a complete, MOTU line in 6-inch scale, so I have no need to buy more. If there's sort of like a one-off item, I'm like, hey, that's really neat, I certainly may get it. I haven't bought a Masterverse figure yet. I have a few Origins, but I haven't bought any of the Masterverse figures. I think from a deco standpoint, it always looks like I can tell how cost reduced they are. Like, oh my God, that figure clearly had more deco on it when it was originally pitched. But like I said, it's just great to see He-Man back in retail. That's all that just makes me happy. And I like why I keep saying I just want to see kids get into this brand because that's what's going to keep it at retail. That's why I keep harping on that because collectors will always have be able to feed off of the first pickings, but you got to have kids to finish off the rest of it. So that's kind of always where I've been.
So Andy Gruber is watching from Europe. Hi Andy, how are you? Like, good to see you. Was there a lot of purchases from Europe when you were doing the classics line, or was it mostly the US?
It was it was 30% international overall. So in Europe, Germany was definitely the second biggest country outside the US. I know South America was pretty big. Canada was pretty big. UK, France would pop up. But 30 good. That's why we use Digital River, because we had to use them because of their international shipping. That was purely what it was. Without the international customers, we would be 30% below our quota. So we needed them.
Jason Dean is asking, how about a new Eternia playset for the 40th celebration? Oh my God, that's got to be it.
They're doing a Castle Grayskull for the CGI line. That's clearly their big fall playset.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, what is the likelihood? Because unfortunately, here in Canada, anyway, the Origins playset for Castle Grayskull is now clogging like retail like crazy. Like I see on average like 6 or 7 in the stores.
How does it look there's like, your answer to whether or not they will make Snake Mountain.
Yeah, I know. But is it similar down there, down south? Like do you see a whole bunch of? I
don't think I've ever seen it at retail. Honestly, I've heard people say it's at Target, but I've never seen it there.
But there's the thing, right? And this is one other thing that I've noticed. The buying power of the U.S. is so strong. Like there are just so much more of you have a huge population. So what happens in the U.S. I think really dictates what tends to happen to brands, right? In my opinion, because the rest the rest of the world, right? We get the great stuff, but sometimes it just doesn't click here. Like I know a ton of people who are willing to buy all these figures, right? But they won't buy the playset because they just don't have the room, right? Whereas in the U.S., and I know a lot of people are still looking, like surprisingly enough, are actually still looking for a Grayskull. So. I guess it really depends on their final sales numbers at the end of the day.
Everything does.
Yeah.
I will have to wrap in just a few minutes.
I was just about to ask. All right, Scott. So I'll do a last question because we are looking at these wonderful action figures. Where am I here? Sorry, I'm gonna bring both. Hey, what's going on? Just wanted to bring both of those back here. So, bringing it back to the Origins. That's not Origins. I really should organize my slides better. Oh, you know what? Really quickly, what do you think of Hordak? Just really quickly, just your initial thoughts, honestly.
I think the head's too small.
I was thinking the same thing, but I think it's the eyes. Actually, I think the eyes are actually a little bit too odd. There's something about them. I think if you look at the character designs from before, the eyes were a little bit bigger. But yeah, I think. But then again, all Masterverse heads are kind of smaller. Where did I put them? They're in here somewhere. There we go. The newest batch of where did the heck? Okay, come on. Stop playing right now. Where did you go? There it is. So this figure, which you have some connection with, and you've done a whole video on this guy. You know, having worked with the Four Horsemen, having worked with the whole line, how did this happen? Like you called it meta, which was great. You know what I mean? And I totally get where you were coming from. But it's interesting, as you said, that the brand has come full circle on that sense. But do you think that the Four Horsemen were involved in this figure proper, or do you think this was pretty much done by Mattel internal? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
Are the Horsemen doing any work for Mattel? Sure. As far as I know, they're not involved. I mean, I'm sure they didn't bring them in to do like one figure if they're not doing all the figures.
They have no rights to the characters at all, right? They were actually just on contract to do them, right? Even though
you work for hire.
But they pitched the idea. It's kind of funny. They pitched the idea, but they ended up having no rights to it, right? Is that actually what happened, or?
Well, yeah, but think about it. They pitched an idea for IP they didn't own. So like it's not like they could do the idea without the IP.
It's weird how the industry works that way, right? Even though technically those are your designs, those are your ideas, right? They still belong to the company, right? It's weird. It's weird how that works.
Well, I mean, most creative work is done work for hire. That's exactly why, because the company wants to, just pay you to make something that they can sell and not have to pay. They don't want to pay you royalties for years.
Are they allowed to, do illustrations and sell like, for instance, portraits, of these characters at all, or is it still fall under the legality of because they did the design, they did the work? Do they have any rights, like artist rights at all?
I mean, I don't think that's any different from any artist that you ask to do a commission of anything. I mean, you can go to, like one of my favorite comic book artists, Eric Larson, and you can, he'll draw Spider-Man for you if you want him to, even though he doesn't work for Marvel. He used to draw Spider-Man 20 years ago or 30 years ago, but he's not going to publish a comic book about Spider-Man. But if you if you pay an artist to draw something for you, I mean, no company can, especially if it's a private commissioned piece.
I got you. I understand. Now the big thing about this, though, and you touched on this before, would they have been able to make, like, for instance, if they omitted the axe, would they have been able to make the sword bigger? And because to me, and I don't really have too much affinity towards that stupid sword, but do you think that it would have made sense to make the sword? I already know your overall opinion, but do you think they would have been able to if they had eliminated one of the other accessories, like even if they took away one of his extra hands? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure they could have made it bigger if they wanted to. I think they purposefully made it this big to show how 2000X would then be reverse engineered and reinterpreted as an Origins figure. Like, I think then, shrinking the sword is part of making it look like a, if this is basically, if there was a He-Man in the 2000X look that came out in 1983, this is what he would look like. I know that, and that's why it's so meta, but
still, I love it, and and you know what, this opens the possibility to accessories packs and so many other options later down the road. Scott, I want to thank you so much for being here today. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's always great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your insights. How can people reach you, Scott? Let us know.
So on YouTube, Spector Creative, Spector is the channel with daily toy related or pop culture related content. And then if you're interested in, if you've got your own concept that you've been working on, or it doesn't have to be a toy, it could be any product, you need help bringing it to market, branding, marketing, content creation, head over to spectorcreative.com. That's what I do day in and day out. And actually what I'll be jumping off this call to do. I have a client I got to call. So yeah, check us out at spectorcreative.com and Twitter, YouTube, all that stuff is Spector Creative, but mostly YouTube is where I put content.
Awesome. Thanks again, Scott. I really appreciate it. Guys, Scott Neitlich of Spector Creative, guys. Definitely check out his channel. If you haven't already, go watch some of his videos. Wonderful insights on the toy industry, particularly from Master Universe, as well as other brands like DC and Ghostbusters. Definitely give him a shout. Let him know that you're a fan. And yeah, obviously he's open to working with people if they're interested in doing additional projects. Scott, thank you so much again, and we'll catch you the next time. Okay.
All right. Have an awesome rest of your spring. Stay warm up there in Canada.
Thanks, everybody. All right. Talk to you later, Scott. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Guys, that was Scott Neitlich of Spector Creative. This has been a great, wonderful interview again. It's always great to be able to have guests on the show. Wow, just an amazing insights, from Scott, and a lot of takeaways. Really, I think that as adult collectors, we get to see the best sides of ourselves in terms of nostalgia and just those wonderful. Just little treasures that we get every few years. And now with the way toy technology is, and a lot more brands recognizing the idea that adults do buy toys and that there is a market for it, we're just so blessed to be able to get these brand new figures, as well as a second chance at getting some older figures from way back down the line. So guys, I thank you again for joining me for this very special episode of the Mega J Retro Show. I think it's been very enlightening. There have been so many questions about whether or not Mattel is going to continue the line going into 2023. It certainly does look that way. But I don't think that it can be ignored that for a while it did look like there was that the line was in trouble, and now with this reinforcement from Mattel, it does certainly seem that Mattel at least will be able to work with Universal, going forward into 2023, hopefully into 2024. At least that is the hope, guys. I've been wrestling with the idea of doing an online petition or some sort of like YouTube campaign or something to try and get some playsets, whether it's Snake Mountain, whether it's the Fright Zone, whether it's new Eternia, Eternia playset, and new Eternos, and Eternos, right? If any of those can be realized, right, whether it be from a Kickstarter, a crowdsourced project or anything like that, I would definitely 100% be on board for that. And you know what? I'm hoping that if I actually start something like that you guys would definitely climb on board and help me to get that message out to as many people as possible. So, guys, thank you again for joining me on this wonderful episode. Sorry we didn't get to too many comments. I tried my best to flash a few of them on the screen. Just before we log off, let me try and find a few that I didn't actually shout out to. So Nate says we have the power. Lee Benson says current adult collectors used to be the kids. This is true. Geeky Ninja says it's because of a lot of new collectors. It's because of a lot of now collectors. I think he's meaning new collectors feel entitled, and since they are adults collecting, they feel the most knowledgeable of what they don't actually know in the industry. Yeah, that is an interesting take, Geeky Ninja. It's interesting to have Scott's insights, and you know what? Thank goodness, because I've always suspected that those are the reasons, and the only reason I even have that kind of understanding is because I've dealt with the print industry for so long, and I know what minimum quantity orders are and things of that nature. So I have that kind of insight onto that. So it's fascinating to be able to get that confirmation on certain levels. Fenris 30, is He-Man and the Master Universe a separate IP from the Master Universe? No, I don't. Sorry, if you're talking about the He-Man and the Master Universe Netflix series versus the Masters of the Universe series, I believe it still falls under the same umbrella. I can't say for certain. That's something that you definitely have to talk to Mattel or Universal about. But it stands to reason that since they are part, basically they still have the same characters. Again, you can't just duplicate something without some repercussions, right? So since both He-Man, Skeletor, Man at Arms, Man at Arms, Ram Mam, what's it called? Cronus, who is Trapjaw, evil-lyn. All these characters still say, they're still by namesake at least, the incarnations of Toylines past, cartoons past. I think it still stands to reason that they are still part of the same brand. So I think that's basically where that would come from. Micah, hey, good to see you, Micah. Same here, and I have some 80s too. Sorry, I picked the wrong one to mention that, but good to see you, Micah. Looks like you were having a conversation. I'm just scanning through, seeing if there was anybody I didn't shout out to. Burble74, the chest looks closer to Savage He-Man, but pecs less rectangular and more He-Man revelations. You know what? I tend to agree with what you're saying, Burble. Scott obviously has a good eye for these types of things, but for whatever reason, visually, it looks almost like he's got a bigger chest. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. I guess when we finally get them in hand, side by side, we'll be able to finally, determine that. Now, mind you, that this version, which we showed today, not this one, sorry. This one here. This version here might not be the final version. These are just obviously promotional shots, and this might be a prototype. So we really don't know. We really don't know what the final versions are going to look like, and if they do actually have brand new tooling. So it's going to be interesting. But we can say for absolute certainty that the head of He-Man is definitely a brand new sculpt. So that in and of itself cannot be denied. And he looks absolutely fantastic. Oh my gosh, just crazy. Well, is there anybody else who I want to give a quick shout out to? Because I haven't. Falco 19 release date. That's the question, right? There have been no release dates announced. That's just crazy. Ryra Ken, Jay, cool mug. Mas maraming salamat, pare. Yes, this is a maganda ng mug, di ba? This is a beautiful mug. Yes, it is. Huge shout out to mftoys.ca, guys. Apparently, mftoys.ca does mugs, but they also make your toy dreams come true. Definitely head over there and give them a like and a follow. Granger Max Power. The harness could be not so dark. I get that, but it looks like it's got a metallic sheen on it. Maybe, and again, this is not the final product. These are just promotional shots. So hopefully those will change. Or be finalized very soon. BrolyCon. I'm still waiting on Castle Grayskull in my area. I'll go to Amazon soon. Wow, that's crazy. Yes, I hope that they'll be able to get that to you. And I know what you're wanting. You don't want it to get banged up in shipping. I know it's crazy. Anybody else? Andre Gruber. Hi there, everybody watching from you. Good to see you, Andre. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the show. Andre says the biggest problem we had with classics is that we knew too late that they were coming out. God, same here. I totally missed out on classics. It's something that I really regret. And if anything, I would have so wanted to get that Castle Grayskull. Just crazy. Anyone else that I should at least say hi to? LT99, thanks for the insight. Thank you for watching, LT. It's awesome. Ditherian, good to see you, my friend. Where does he get all of those wonderful toys? Well, he worked in the industry, so I'm pretty sure it wasn't that hard for him to get, Ditherian. Ezra Grun. Thanks, Jay, for the great content. Thank you for watching, Ezra. Good to see you. Let's see if there's anybody else out there. I think that's about it. I don't think I missed. I might have missed one or two comments, but yeah, there are just so many. You guys were doing some awesome chatting. Really appreciate all the support, guys. Thank you so much. Gosh, Todd Jumper. Yeah, we actually mentioned you on your comment there. Machine Man. Vala actually said, yes, that's right. We mentioned that too. Sorry, guys. I'm just going through the rest of the. I think that's it. If I missed anybody's comment or shout out, my apologies. It's kind of hard to keep track. The chat was bouncing. It was crazy. But guys, let's just do this one. Geeky Ninjas. Nostalgia sells 100%, and the adult collecting market gained momentum during the pandemic. Wow, that is probably true. That is probably true. Guys, thank you so much for being here and contributing to the wonderful chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. I want to thank my special guest, Scott Neitlich. Scott Neitlich of I keep pronouncing it wrong. I apologize, Scott. Scott Neitlich of Spector Creative. His insights are always welcome, and he's such a great character. Guys, please head over to Scott's channel, Spector Creative on YouTube. You guys will definitely get a kick out of it. I'm going to rewatch that episode where he talked about the Iron Cross. I have to learn more about that because seriously, it's always been one of those things in my mind that I've always wanted to find out. So I'd love to find out his insights on that. Guys, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. And as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. Geek proud.